Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. As audio okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for taking time to do this interview.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I hadn't heard of your show before, and I watched some of the old videos. I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, that means a lot. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you did that.
Yeah, I mean you had Aaron from MDB on, so that was a pretty must watch for me.
Oh yeah, that was like one of my biggest highlights that I've done. I've been such a huge fan of him for over 20 years now, so the fact I could finally talk to him was just such a cool thing.
Yeah, yeah. I measure my fandom in decades with MDB as well, so I'm right with you there.
Well, this definitely sounds like it's going to be going in the right direction for me, and I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this and being able to talk about some brand new music coming out very, very soon. I've gotten the chance to, well, this is my first foray into the band, and but as soon as I read the press release, it sounded like it was everything that I wanted it to be. And then when I first heard heard it for the first time, I instantly fell in love. Like this is my kind of doom. I love the
Okay.
fact that it's clean vocals. I mean,
Yeah.
like there's so much doom out there that is like the growls and screams that
Yep.
it's a very refreshing change of pace to hear like very emotional clean vocals, and it really grabbed my heartstrings the more that I listened to it. Like the because I could hear the lyrics pretty much immediately, so it just like it gripped me that much harder. And just I love the dynamics of everything as well too, whether it gets super heavy, whether
Awesome.
it
Yeah.
gets more pulled back. Like yeah, I mean just from one listen this became one of my favorite albums of the year, and I know with more listens that I've done it's grown even higher, and when I do my best of the year list this is going to rank very, very high for me.
I mean, I love flattery, so please get. No, I'm seriously. I'm glad you like it. I mean, I've seen the Woods Five. Is that the vinyl back there?
Yes, it is.
Um, yeah. I mean, like, look, clean vocals. I'm with you. Like, I like everything. Like, I'm a very open-minded metal listener, and we were talking about Bride just a second ago, who obviously has done both, but there were periods where there wasn't any growling at all. Um, I, for me, it's essential. It's just it's I don't I think everyone just has to make their own choices as an artist for how how their vision is going to be realized. And for me, I think I shouldn't say always because you never say never or the opposite. But clean vocals are really important to me. They're more emotional to me. I think you can get more like emotional mileage out of them, if you will. So I have plenty of friends who are doing the doom death thing, and I love what they're doing. But for me, yeah, clean all the way for sure.
Yeah, like with this, like now that I heard it this way, I can't imagine it any other way. Like
I
it
agree.
needs to be this way.
I agree. I fully agree. And that's like I'm thinking about that when I'm writing, right? Like, okay, like make space for the vocals, not just percussively, not just rhythmically, but this is going to be a place where the vocals are gonna come up front, or maybe they're going to recede, and maybe guitar is going to be more forward here. Like that's part of like the dynamics that I'm thinking about while I'm writing, and I agree. I think I just don't think it would be additive on Joy or any of the past releases either to have it. I just don't think it would work. It's just not what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, I got to say it again, like from the first time that I've listened to it and the many, many repeats that I've done since
Awesome.
then. I love what you're doing, and it's gonna be so cool to go deeper into this. So when it comes to Joy, like how did the songwriting process begin for this album?
Yeah, so this sorry, my cat is very much liking your interest in witnesses, so decided to join. Um, so
Nothing wrong
yeah,
with that.
so this is a topic that continues to amaze and confuse people. Witnesses is done in a very non-traditional way. I'm the only member here in NYC. And so everything is done through file sharing, and through like Instagram messages and emails. And so for Joy in particular, There's a couple things, and I don't know how far you've gone to the back catalog, so forgive me if there's some like arcana here. But some of the past releases have used program drums. And on Joy, I was like, not this time. Like we're going back to live drums. I'm gonna get like you know the things that you just can't get out of program drums are just like the organicness, the more thoughtful transitions, some of the embellishments. I mean, you can do it like if you have the time and patience. Like if you listen to like the first Animals as Leaders record, that's all programmed and what? How is that possible? I don't have that patience or skill level, so I was like, all right, I need a live drummer for this, and so through Twitter, I found Angel Hernandez who played, did great work, and then you talk about vocals, so that's Simon Bibby of Thy Listless Heart. I knew Simon from a few years ago, just chatting on Instagram, and I knew he was in this My Silent Wake. But then when his solo album came out, Thy Listless Heart, I made up my mind instantly, and I think I messaged him that day, "You're singing on the next album. Like you don't have a choice in the matter. Like you're singing on the next album." And so with Simon, like I have very strong feelings about working with collaborators. And I didn't write a single vocal line for him. It's just like, hey man, like here are the lyrics. But go for it. Like you're a talented person. Why would I, a non-singer, tell you what to sing? You know what I mean? Like I want you on board because of what you bring. And I think, thinking back on it, there was one part like that we nixed. And he warned me. He was like, "This is going to be weird." He was like, "I don't know if this part's going to work, but try it on." And I listened to it and I was like, "Yeah, let's skip this part. Let's do something different." So everything worked. It just, yeah. And I think what I'm trying to illustrate here is just, you have a talented person you're collaborating with. Just give them the space. So, your question was like, how does it come together? I guess I'll try to summarize. So I write all this stuff instrumentally, and I'll do some program drums to just help me arrange, right? And then over to Angel, who put down the live tracks, and then we did the vocals last. I did guitar, bass, keys, mixing. So it's a different process. Like there are no live writing sessions to make that album. Zero.
And it's amazing to me because the more that I do listen to it, it really does feel like all of you were in the same room together writing all of this because it just comes together so naturally.
I mean, I think, Josh, like the thing I'll say about Angel and Simon and everyone involved, they really wanted to be a part of this. Like I was kind of humbled and flattered like at their enthusiasm for it. And I think like, when people are really like interested in they're gonna do their best, right? So yeah, it came together. And you're right. Like, I mean, there are things that come out that you do get good results from being in the room together. But I'll tell you, like, I'm kind of a dictator when it comes to art, and I there's this thing that I want to see happen, and I want contributors to have freedom, but I also like to work kind of alone as well. So for all that writing, mapping out the songs and arrangement, that's stuff I have to do alone. If I was in the room with them, I would I would feel like a pressure. Do you know what I mean? That like I don't have when I'm just by myself plowing through ideas, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. And you want to be able to fulfill your vision that way. And the fact that you're able to find people to be able to collaborate or guest on this album to be able to fulfill that vision, but also be able to be themselves, but they're also
Yeah,
working towards the same goal as you are.
that's
And
right.
when you're able to do that, it just makes for such a great creative process.
Yeah, exactly right. And like, whether they're guests, I think is kind of TBD. I'm this release has caused me to like rethink some of my assumptions about what Witnesses can and should be. There is an issue of the Atlantic Ocean between me and Simon and Angel's in Florida. But I don't think this is the last you'll hear from those guys on Witnesses.
I'm so glad to hear that because when I just think of how everything came together like this, and being a drummer myself, and the fact that there's real drums on this album again, like I can truly appreciate that. I mean,
Yep.
especially for something like this style of Doom, it just requires real drums.
It
Not to
does.
say that there was anything wrong with the previous albums that featured the electric drums, but just having real drums behind it just adds so much more emotion and power behind it.
I'm with you 100%. And Angel was the right guy for it. Like there's no shortage of like really talented drummers out there, really fast drummers, blah blah blah. But I think Angel just approached it from the right mindset of like, where to add color, where to show restraint, et cetera, et cetera. And I agree. I mean, there were parts. I think it also freed me up. Like there were some transitions on some of the songs where I was like, Angel, like help me out, dude. Get me out of this section, man. I've painted myself into a corner, and if the drums don't get me out of it, I'm screwed. And so having a human being and that involved in that was, yes, I agree with you. It was necessary, and it was a huge lift over the previous albums. I agree.
Is there any particular examples of that?
Um, you want me to air my dirty laundry? Yes, yes, there is. There's one that comes to mind that like was driving me nuts. It's in the last song, "Safety and Me." "Safety and Me" has this kind of like it may not come across, but there's a riff in there that's like almost kind of thrashy. And it almost has some like no choice to me that like I was trying to invoke actually heart work. Which I know sounds like totally out of left field. You're probably like, man, I don't hear that shit at all. But that is like where my head was at. And it kind of, and I think it was like, and then it wanted to go back into like a groove, and I couldn't do it. And I was like, I don't know, do something, man. And he just had this perfect fill that kind of bridged those two sections and kept the song going without this like unneeded break, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's a safety in me in that thrashy part. Like Angel really helped there, just work me out of a jam.
Oh, I know the spot that you're talking about, and I do love that fill that he did. Like,
It's awesome.
there, there's something to be said about when drummers actually use fills as transitions and
Yes.
not just showing off. I
Yes.
I I don't feel like there's enough, especially in metal. There's not enough drummers who know how to do transitional fills like that, or at least they choose not to.
It's a very good point. I mean, I think like you raise a good topic, and I'm not interested in like denigrating anyone or anything, but there's a lot of technicality in metal right now, like a lot. Like it's mind-boggling, right? Like I have to like mute shit on Instagram. I'm like enough, man. Like I've seen enough sweeping and 320 BPM like blast me. I can't take it anymore. Like there's just no shortage of technicality out there, but musicality is kind of different, right? So I think you raised a good point. And yeah, as a drummer, like just understanding the song structure and the arrangement and where the song is going is huge, and like almost feels like harder to find than like people who are just so technical and cramming a million notes into each bar, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And there's nothing wrong with that on the other side of it too. Like I
Sure.
enjoy fretboard Olympics just like anyone else does. It's
Yeah.
I appreciate when a drummer can do gravity blasts that are faster than I can run.
Yeah.
It's just like it's those are cool things, and there's bands that pull that off so great. But when you do hear like a transitional fill, like in that specific example, it reminds you of like, oh, that's the purpose of fills. That's why they originated in the first place, not just a standard drum beat through the entire song.
No, I totally agree. And like it's funny because this is, I mentioned animals as leaders earlier. And my music is not technical. It's just not. But that's a band that like is super technical but also super musical to me. And it's one of the reasons why like despite the fretboard Olympics that Tosin Abasi is doing, like it's so listenable. Like it grooves. You can latch onto it. Like wow, like I think he's thread the needle with his music, like unlike a lot of other players. Anyway,
Oh yeah, and
yeah.
I still remember the first time I heard that album. Like to this day, Cafo, however it's pronounced, that
Exactly.
solo is one of my favorite solos in metal. I love the fact that it starts off so melodic and then it just goes jaw-droppingly technical at the end. Like that's how you do a guitar solo, and it's just like you make it memorable and then you just show off all of your skills towards the end. Like I think that's just such a cool example of that.
It's a perfect example, and that was the song that was in my mind exactly. I mean, that song, like, I don't know how, like, do you have a pulse if you don't love that song? Like, it's so great. Like, anyway, yeah.
Oh, totally. So, going in the exact opposite
Sure.
direction of that, obviously with an album like Joy, when you listen to it, you don't necessarily experience that emotion. But I mean, I've gotten a lot of joy out of listening to it, but it really does feel like there's a darker meaning behind all of it. Like, how did you approach the lyrics on this album? Like, obviously it feels like everything ties together, but how did that come together?
It does, and I appreciate this question. I think about this all the time. Um, it's funny because like there's very little about the album that's melancholic to me, just personally. A good friend of mine described it as like he said it sounded like a funeral, and I was like, it does? Like, don't get me wrong, like it is doom metal, so feel free to say that because that'll people will probably be interested in that. But that's not it's not the experience for me at all, and I'll tell you. I don't generally like to talk about my lyrics, but I'll be more forthcoming this time. Um, the album, the spirit of the album, the reason why it's called Joy is because art and music for me was starting to become kind of joyless, and I really wanted to reconnect with like the original reasons that I started doing this in the first place, which is loving it for its own sake. And like I just I just wanted to write an album that was where the experience for me as a writer was rewarding and not just miserable. Cause like, I'm a big comic book fan, and I think it was Donny Cates who said, I hate writing, but I love having written, right? And I actually wanted to enjoy writing again. Right? Like, sorry, my cat really is enjoying this interview. And
Oh,
and
not a
so
problem.
so I really wanted to like reconnect with something that was very basic and fundamental and like primal for me or something. Like when I was a kid, I used to draw, like before I ever like picked up a guitar. And so I wanted to reconnect with that. But you're right, there are some darker themes in the album. Safety and Me, for example, was an extremely dark song. And it's kind of about like the choices that we make now and how they impact posterity. And there's, I won't get into like current events or anything like that, but there's no shortage of things you can think about when it comes to like how we live and how and the effect that might have on generations one, two, three down the line. And if with that spirit, you might interpret the lyrics in Safety and Me quite differently. Um, and then, thinking about what's another one? I See Everything also has kind of like a dark side to it. There's references to like witches and the stillness in the night. And there's just kind of something like a spirit that's tempting you or something that I'm trying to invoke in that song. And then like a river is, kind of me trying to express um, something of like an emancipation from how I was raised spiritually, right? Whereas I didn't want to necessarily come out and write some kind of like anti-Christian song or anything like that, but it is about kind of like spiritual freedom, right? So there's a lot going on, and I'm kind of blathering. Um, but the simple fact of the matter is that while there may be dark themes in there, it is rooted in a desire to kind of just like reconnect with art, and that's why I called it joy, frankly.
And as you're describing that, it's like that's starting to click with me so much now. Like when I'm thinking of different moments on here, because when I listen to it myself, like obviously being a Doom fan, it's just like you're so used to everything being like the darkest, the most despair, everything that's going on with that. But the more that I do listen to it, the more I do kind of do perk up. Like there's like moments that I do find relatable. There are moments where it doesn't feel like you're just in the depths of despair. Like it feels optimistic in moments,
I
and
welcome that.
yeah,
I absolutely welcome that. Like I don't know about you, Josh, but like when I listen to like all my favorite like doom bands, like when I listen to them, I don't feel bad. I feel good. Like right, like something is affirmative about that experience, right? And a few albums back in 2020, I had this album, Doom 2, that got a very positive write up in Invisible Oranges. And the writer said that like the experience was of Doom elevating you. And I'm like, maybe that's what I'm doing. Like maybe that is part of this sound. Yeah.
yeah, and I feel the same way with Doom. Like it is kind of just like it does cheer me up. I mean, sometimes when I'm feeling at my lowest,
Yeah.
it's nice to kind of have that shared experience, knowing that other people are feeling as low as I am at times. Other times, I just want to be able to hear it because I love the melodies and harmonies that you don't hear in other genres, which is incorporated into Doom. And when I think about Joy, it's just like I hear moments on this album that I don't get from any other album that I've heard this year. And I'm almost at 500 album reviews that I've
I
done this
saw that.
year.
I saw that.
And
Yeah.
I I get like moments that just get me so excited, like different riffs and lyrical passages and melodies and harmonies on here that I don't hear from other ones. And that's just what grabs me so much because especially again, like we've talked about throughout this entire thing, it's just like there's a lot of formula that goes into Doom. And when you do something different, when you do
Yeah.
something that's very authentic like this, to me, it makes it stand out.
I mean, I agree. Well, I'm thrilled that that's your experience listening to it first. That's the most important thing. But the other thing is like, necessity is the mother of invention, and I don't know if I have it in me at my age to write depressing lyrics anymore. Like, like they can be dark, right? Like they can be dark and they can be introspective. But I feel like if I were to try and write some really like gloomy, melancholic stuff, I'd probably just want to throw up. Lyrics are really hard. And one of the reasons that one of the ways I've sidestepped it is I've been focusing on stories for a while. So Doom 2 tells a story, The Collapse tells a story. I did an EP in 2022 that's about Dracula. Like I've just kind of been like, you know what? Fuck all this stuff. I'm just putting it to the side. And Joy came around. I was like, I don't want to tell a story this time. I want to write more like introspective personal lyrics. But they didn't come out just like about, just purely about loss and grief. That just stuff didn't come out. And I don't see it coming out in the future. Maybe. Who knows, right? But it certainly wasn't what I wanted to do for this outing.
Yeah, and that just makes all the sense in the world to me. Like that authenticity again is just what it drives me in there. Like when I hear the drums, it sounds so authentic. The vocal delivery just sounds so authentic to me, and the instrumentation and what you incorporated into the songwriting, it's what you wanted to create. And sometimes you don't well, just seeing that progression of like what you've done in the beginning and what you're doing now, it's just incredible to see the progression that goes there. And that's got me excited for the future about what you're going to be doing as well. Because if you're getting this kind of epiphany now where, it's just like
Yeah.
you're not focusing just on the darkest and you're able to see some of those silver linings in the dark clouds, that's got me excited for the future.
Well, good because I'm writing. Like you're a musician too, and like I just always have to write. And so like the minute this thing was done, I was like, well, time to write again. So yeah, it'll continue for sure. And it is kind of like an epiphany. Like it's taken me a while to get here. Like, I don't have any regrets per se. But I do feel strongly that this is the best release for the project to date.
Oh, that's so great to hear. And of course, as much as I do love this thing audibly, I do love visually what's going on with the album cover. Just it reminds me so much of the Peaceville 3 so much and just like the early day Doom, but it's done different enough. And
Yeah.
I appreciate that so much. Like where did that come from?
Yeah, that's an artist named well, they go but their moniker online is Welder Wings. I believe it's two people, Francisco and Nuria. I can't remember their last names. Um, and I kind of have this like thing where sometimes art just finds you. That's how I feel about tattoos as well. Like you can sit there and like force it and force it and force it. Like I gotta get a tattoo and I gotta figure it out. Or one day you just see something in a photograph or a magazine or whatever, and you're just like, that's it. And that's what happened with this. So I just I this just I can't remember if I had followed them already or not, but I saw this image and I was like, that's it. That's that's the cover. I got in touch with them. They were great, and hooked me up with a very fair license. So yeah, it wasn't like I had this vision for what it was, contacted an artist and did an original piece. It more like found me. And they're I mean they're pretty good. Like they did some posters for like a recent Tool tour. So they're doing great stuff. But yeah, Welder Wings is the artist. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I mean, yeah, if you would have told me you commissioned that, I would have completely believed you because it does fit so perfectly with the music. But the fact that you were just drawn to it, you came across it, and you just knew that had to be the album cover. I mean, you don't hear a lot of people say that. And I think that's kind of a shame because there's so many great artists out there who have done amazing work that's not just commissioned. Sometimes it's just from their own ideas. They're just trying to get their own inspirations and thoughts out there. And sometimes that can just connect with you so much.
So much. It's so much. And like one of my favorite stories is so I have this EP from a few years ago that's just like four songs, female vocals, a lot of acoustic guitar and some keys and that has a really great piece of cover art that I saw in person in a museum in New Mexico. And I saw this piece and I was like I need to get in touch with this person because this needs to be the cover for this thing I'm working on, and it worked out. So yeah, if you keep your eyes open, just like with the fretboard demons, there's plenty of great artists out there too, who just have tons of stuff. And like, don't get me wrong, like having something commissioned is very special, right? Like you can establish a great connection with an artist that way too. But like if you again you keep your eyes open and something crosses your path, you're just like, holy shit, like it's almost like I don't know. They knew I was working on this album or something when they created this. You know what I mean? And it's just strange, almost coincidental feeling.
Oh, yeah, again, it's such a great feeling when things come together like that.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
just thinking about like everything that's going on with this album cycle, I mean, being able to find the right artwork, being able to find the right people to be able to help fulfill the rest of the album, finding the right PR to be able to help spread the word, because if
Sure.
it wasn't for that PR, I might not have found this album. And I'm so thankful to have been able to find this. And, it's just like when you get all the right people connected in there and they're working towards the same goal, the same vision as you, there's no greater feeling than knowing that what you want to be able to create is closer to getting done when you have the right people behind you.
It's true, and something you said there just kind of sends chills down my spine. It's like it's so hard to get people's attention and to because it's not. There's so many factors against you, right? One, there's a ton of great bands. Like it's unbelievable to me. Like I just like you're probably familiar with like Mother of Graves, their
Oh
their
yeah.
new one. I mean, like I, fucking phenomenal, right? And like there was a moment where their release date was close to mine, and I'm glad mine changed. uh, because like their new one is awesome. And so there's just like so much good stuff out there that it's pretty freaking intimidating to be honest. And then like people's attention spans are they are what they are, right? In the day and age that we live in. So you got a lot of material, a lot of people moving fast. And it's just, yeah, you like every single person who, the way I think of it is, you know what? Love it or hate it. Even someone who just stops for a fucking minute and hits play, I appreciate because the amount of albums I see every day that I don't stop and hit play on, it's like, it feels like infinite. So yeah, I'm super grateful that for anyone who checks it out, even if it's not their thing, I don't care. There's just so much shit out there.
Oh, totally. And if the next release, if you do want to reach a bigger audience and you start doing the TikTok grind pop to be able to just get songs short enough to make it for the videos, I totally understand if you want to go in that direction. But
I'm not on, I'm not on TikTok. I think more bands probably are getting on TikTok, but like, I don't know. I feel like probably around Snapchat was when I was like, I don't understand this shit anymore. So yeah, I'm on the gram, but that's probably the most social for me.
Oh, yeah, and I totally understand that. And with the attention spans, I'm so thankful I still appreciate albums because I know how easy it is to for a lot of people they just want to hear a chorus or they just want
Yeah.
to hear another part of the song that might be a catchy part or a meme part or whatever. But for me, there's no greater feeling than like actually getting to listen to a full album and being able to dissect it from start to finish. Like why is the track order the way that it is? Like, how does it ebb and flow? Like, is it connected or is it just a good collection of songs? And, just like there's so many things that you can pick apart with that. And that's why I still do album reviews
Yes.
because, like, I love being able to talk about the full experience. I love knowing everything that's going on through the entire album cycle. And, it's just like it shows different kinds of emotions through there. There's the reasons if the band plays live, it's just like what songs are they going to play live? Is there any covers, any B-sides, there's so many great things that come about it. And I want to know everything about that. And I guess that's also why I do interviews as well too, rather than just like listen to the same chorus over and over again until I'm sick of the chorus. Like I love dissecting all of it and getting to go deeper into it.
I'm like you. Full albums, which is why I like. So how you said you've done 500? All right, I don't want to
Well,
figure
it's
out the
it's
math.
over 400 right now, but by the end of November, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna hit 500 this year.
Okay, okay. So you do full albums and you've done 500 because I like full albums and I've done like five.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I look, I'm with you. Like, look, I'm sure you feel the same as I do. I'm not gonna knock how people enjoy art. Whatever,
Oh
man.
yeah.
Like, if you want choruses, if you want 2 minute long songs, that's great, man. And enjoy whatever it is that you like. But I'm like you. I want the artwork. I want the full album. That's what I want, the end to end thing. Track order, so important. You'll appreciate this. So what I'll do one more single will come out before November 8th. And it'll be I See Everything, track two.
Oh
And
yeah.
as you know, that track starts with just like a diminished chord on the piano and like a whispering kind of like spoken part. And and I can't help it. It's like a disease that gets into your head. I was like, man, some people are gonna click stop after 3 seconds on this thing because they just hear some fucking diminished chord and some dude with a British accent whispering. And like some people are just gonna like skip. But then I was like, but this is the song, man. Like this is the right song that I want to come out next. So I'm gonna do it. Do you know what I mean? And if I was thinking like, oh, like, what should I put out that is, probably gonna get someone in 5 seconds? I'd probably do track five. But yeah, I'm doing what I think is right for it, and that might mean that yeah, some people are like next, and that's okay, you know.
And hopefully there's the others. It's like, oh, this kind of reminds me of Aaron Stainthorpe. Maybe I'll be able to give this one more of a shot.
There it is, right? The people who have been waiting for that.
Well, I mean, he's made like a whole career outside of My Dying Bride, like doing so many guest spots, like with a lot of bands that do the diminished chords, and he's doing his spoken word or his
Yep.
clean vocals over top of that. I mean, like when we did that interview, like I wanted to know about like how he picks and chooses like the guest spots that he does with that, and he says that he's got to feel some emotion behind the songs, like he's actually gonna like it to be able to do the guest spot on it. He's not just gonna do it for the money, and I appreciate that so much.
Well, that loops back to what we were talking about like 15 minutes ago, right? Which is like one of the reasons why I think Joy came together was because the people wanted to do it, right? And yeah, when I watched that interview with Aaron, I didn't even know about the High Parasite project, and I've seen him show up every now, like every few years. Oh, Aaron's on this thing. I'm like, how the fuck did they get Aaron on this thing? And so there, you just solved the mystery. It's because it's something that really connected with him, and he's like, yeah, I want to do this.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you're choosing that as the last single before the album comes out. I mean, I think it's a very it between all three singles that have been released, like it shows all these different sides of the album without giving everything away, which is something I appreciate because when you hear the singles, it to at least to me, it leaves you wanting more. And
Good,
I think between
good.
all three of those
Yes.
songs, like it shows the three different sides of the musical palette on this album.
That's great. Yeah, because I didn't want to release Safety in Me because it's my favorite. And I don't want to release the song that I think is the best, right? Because I try to put myself in the other on the other side, right? Like if this is the song that I'm gonna like the best and it's released, and then I hear the album and it's all down downhill from there. So I was like, no, 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 this is the best song, so I'm keeping this one back, right? But I love that that's been your experience of the songs. So that whole, if you want to call it the B side of the album is will be kept back till November 8th. But yeah, I see everything will come out, I think on like the 18th or something like that.
Oh yeah. And to me it's like I mean, obviously singles are important. And that's what I checked out first before I got the album was checking out singles. But when I go back to it, I don't want to just go back and like listen to particular songs. Like I was talking about before, like I'm going to start with the first track on an album and I'm going to listen all the way through.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just who I am. I mean, whether it's the brightest spots, the darkest spots, whatever, like I love the whole experience. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's just like if you're watching a movie and you only watch your favorite scenes, there's so much that's left out in context to me. Like you want to watch the entire film to know everything that's going on with it, even if it's not necessarily connected, you'd still want that full experience. And
Yeah, I
that's
totally
how this
agree.
album is to me.
Great. Like I totally agree. And one of the things about this album as well is that it's short. Like I like to call it a very short full length. Like the shortest full length possible. I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on where your marker is. Some people would say 25 minutes, 30, 33. This is like 35 minutes long, so it's short. And I had this moment where I was like, should I do another song for this? And I was like, no, it's done. Like what I've wanted to say has been said. And to your point, like I'd rather like I would rather leave people wanting more than overstay my welcome. I think of it like a live show, right? Like, I don't know about you, but for me, like anything past 45 minutes, just get off stage. Like, I would just rather be like, God damn, that was amazing. And like, I could have gone for another three songs than like, oh man, my back hurts. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if obviously you want to hit it like perfectly, but if you're going to err on the side of leaving them wanting more or overstaying your welcome, leave them wanting more. Like, always. Easy choice.
Always.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, that's why I feel like this album does have that replay value to me. And like I mentioned before, I'm so excited about the future as well too. Like getting to learn everything about like your writing process, how you approach albums, how you approach the music. It's just gotten me more excited to go listen to Joy again after we're done here and I'm
Awesome.
working on the interview. Looking forward to the future, going back to the previous albums and releases and being able to have new appreciation for them as well too.
Great.
Like just all of this has just been awesome. And I'm looking at the clock now and I see Zoom's going to be cutting me off in just a little over a minute now. So I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to be able to talk to me about everything about Witnesses, everything about Joy. Like I said, it's already become one of my favorite albums of the year, and I can't wait to talk about it at the end of the year when I talk about my top albums of the year. And just getting your insight into all of it and just like clicking with you so much on the way that you think, the way that you approach things, the way that we both look at Doom and so many other things. Like, this has just been an awesome time, and I thank you so much for all of it.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it so much. And yeah, definitely see things very similar to you. So I'm so glad you enjoy the album, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.